Hello everyone. I hope you are very consistent and healthy. In this video, we will start with chapter 3 of the book Ikigai. I hope you have completed the previous chapters. So let's begin. From logotherapy to Ikigai: How to live longer and better by finding your purpose. Chapter 3. What is logotherapy? A colleague once asked Viktor Frankl to define his school of psychology in a single phrase, to which Frankl replied, "Well, in logotherapy, the patient sits up straight and has to listen to things that are, on occasion, hard to hear." The colleague had just described psychoanalysis to him in the following terms. In psychoanalysis, the patient lies down on a couch and tells you things that are, on occasion, hard to say. Frankl explains that one of the first questions he would ask his patient was, "Why do you not commit suicide?" Usually, the patient found good reasons not to and was able to carry on. What, then, does logotherapy do? The answer is pretty clear. It helps you find reasons to live. Logotherapy pushes patients to consciously discover their life's purpose in order to confront their neurosis. Their quest to fulfill their destiny then motivates them to press forward, breaking the mental chains of the past and overcoming whatever obstacles they encounter along the way. Something to live for. A study conducted by Frankl in his Vienna clinic found that among both patients and personnel, around 80% believed that human beings needed a reason for living, and around 60% felt they had someone or something in their lives worth dying for. The search for meaning. The search for purpose became a personal, driving force that allowed Frankl to achieve his goals. The process of logotherapy can be summarized in these 5 steps. First, a person feels empty, frustrated, or anxious. Second, the therapist shows him that what he is feeling is the desire to have a meaningful life. Third, the patient discovers his life's purpose at that particular point in time. Fourth, of his own free will, the patient decides to accept or reject that destiny. Fifth, this newfound passion for life helps him overcome obstacles and sorrows. Frankl himself would live and die for his principles and ideals. His experiences as a prisoner at Auschwitz showed him that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It was something he had to go through alone, without any help, and it inspired him for the rest of his life. 10 differences between psychoanalysis and logotherapy. So, guys, I also want to add one thing, that psychoanalysis and logotherapy are two thoughts of psychology. They talk about different ways in which human mind works and how they can help patients in their own ways. So, if you want to learn more about logotherapy in detail, we have read the Viktor Frankl's book Man's Search for Meaning in my first series. I hope you will definitely look at it and you will enjoy it. So, let's begin. Psychoanalysis. The patient reclines on a couch like a patient. It's retrospective, it looks to the past. Is introspective, it analyzes neurosis. The drive is toward pleasure, centers on psychology, works on psychogenic neurosis, analyzes the unconscious origin of conflicts, instinctual dimension, limits itself to the patient's instincts, is fundamentally incompatible with faith, seeks to reconcile conflicts and satisfy impulses and instincts. Logotherapy. The patient sits facing the therapist who guides him or her without passing judgment, looks towards the future, doesn't delve into the patient's neurosis. The drive is toward purpose and meaning, includes a spiritual dimension, also work on neurogenic or existential neurosis, deals with conflicts when and where they arise. Spiritual dimension also deals with spiritual realities, is compatible with faith, seeks to help the patient find meaning in his life and satisfy his moral principles. Fight for yourself. Existential frustration arises when our life is without purpose or when that purpose is skewed. In Frankel's view, however, there is no need to see this frustration as an anomaly or a symptom of neurosis. Instead, it can be a positive thing, a catalyst for change. Logotherapy does not see this frustration as mental illness the way other forms of therapy do, but rather as spiritual anguish, unnatural and beneficial phenomena that derives those who suffer from it to seek a cure, whether on their own or with the help of others, and in so doing to find greater satisfaction in life. It helps them change their own destiny. Logotherapy enters the picture if the person needs help doing this, if he needs guidance in discovering his life's purpose and later in overcoming conflicts so he can keep moving toward his objective. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl cites one of Nietzsche's famous aphorisms: He who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how. Based on his own experience, Frankl believed that our health depends on what natural tension that comes from comparing what we have accomplished so far with what we'd like to achieve in the future. What we need then is not a peaceful existence, but a challenge we can strive to meet by applying all the skills at our disposal. Existential crisis, on the other hand, is typical of modern societies in which people do what they are told to do or what others do rather than what they want to do. They often try to fill the gap between what is expected of them and what they want for themselves with economic power or physical pleasure, or by numbing their senses. It can even lead to suicide. Sunday neurosis, for example, is what happens when, without the obligations and commitments of the work week, the individual realizes how empty he is inside. He has to find a solution. Above all, he has to find his purpose, his reason for getting out of bed, his Ikigai. I feel empty inside. In a study conducted at the Vienna Polyclinic Hospital, Frankel's team found that 55% of the patients they interviewed were experiencing some degree of existential crisis. According to logotherapy, discovering one's purpose in life helps an individual fill that existential void. Frankl, a man who faced his problem and turned his objectives into actions, could look back on his life in peace as he grew old. He did not have to envy those still enjoying their youth because he had amassed a broad set of experiences that showed he had lived for something. Better living through logotherapy. A few key ideas. We don't create the meaning of our life as Sartre claimed. We discover it. We each have a unique reason for being, which can be adjusted or transformed many times over the years, just as worry often brings about precisely the thing that was feared. Excessive attention to a desire or hyperattention intention can keep that desire from being fulfilled. Humor can help break negative cycles and reduce anxiety. We all have the capacity to do noble or terrible things. The side of the equation we end up on depends on our decisions, not on the conditions in which we find ourselves. In the pages that follow, we will look at four cases from Frankl's own practice in order to better understand the search for meaning and purpose. Case study: Viktor Frankl. In German concentration camps, as in those that would later be built in Japan and Korea, psychiatrists confirmed that the prisoners with the greatest chance of survival were those who had things they wanted to accomplish outside the camp, those who felt a strong need to get out of there alive. This was true of Frankl, who, after being released and successfully developing the School of Logotherapy, realized he had been the first patient of his own practice. Frankl had a goal to achieve, and it made him persevere. persevere. He arrived at Auschwitz carrying a manuscript that contained all the theories and research he had compiled over the course of his career, ready for publication. When it was confiscated, he felt compelled to write it all over again. And that need drove him and gave his life meaning amid the constant horror and doubt of the concentration camp. So much so that over the years, and especially when he fell ill with typhus, he would jot down fragments and keywords from the lost work on any scrap of paper he found. Case study: The American Diplomat. An important North American diplomat went to Frankl to pick up where he left off with a course of treatment he had started 5 years earlier in the United States. When Frankl asked him why he had started therapy in the first place, the diplomat answered that he hated his job and his country's international policies, which he had to follow and enforce. His American psychoanalyst, whom he'd been seeing for years, instead insisted he make peace with his father so that his government and his job, both representations of the paternal figure, would seem less disagreeable. Frankl, however, showed him in just a few sessions that his frustration was due to the fact that he wanted to pursue a different career, and the diplomat concluded his treatment with that idea in mind. 5 years later, the former diplomat informed Frankl that he had been working during that time in a different profession and that he was happy. In Frankel's view, the man not only didn't need all those years of psychoanalysis, he also couldn't even really be considered a patient in need of therapy. He was simply someone in search of a new life's purpose. As soon as he found it, his life took on deeper meaning. Case study: the suicidal mother. The mother of a boy who had died at age 11 was admitted to Frankel's clinic after she tried to kill herself and her other son. It was this other son, paralyzed since birth, who kept her from carrying out her plan. He did believe his life had a purpose, and if his mother killed them both, it would keep him from achieving his goals. The woman shared her story in a group session. To help her, Frankel asked another woman to imagine a hypothetical situation in which she lay on her deathbed, old and wealthy but childless. The woman insisted that in that case she would have felt her life had been a failure. When the suicidal mother was asked to perform the same exercise, imagining herself on her deathbed, she looked back and realized that she had done everything in her power for her children, for both of them. She had given her paralyzed son a good life, and he had turned into a kind, reasonably happy person. To this she added, crying, "As for myself, I can look back peacefully on my life, for I can see my life was full of meaning, and I have tried hard to live it fully. I have done my best. I have done my best for my son. My life was no failure." In this way, by imagining herself on her deathbed and looking back, the suicidal mother found the meaning that, though she was not aware of it, her life already had. So we will stop here and we will continue next part in our next video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel for more such videos. Thank you.